Welcome back to Media Week. Radio broadcaster Today FM has been in focus this week following an appeal from the Australian Communications and Media Authority. The High Court ruled this week that the authority has the power to make a finding that radio station Today FM breached laws by airing those notorious prank calls without the consent of the other party. Let's get an insight now into just how it's impacting the stock performance of its parent. We're joined by Evan Lucas from IG. Evan, great to have your company on Media Week. So Southern Cross Media obviously owns Today FM. How's it hit the stock this week?
Stock has sort of taken it in its stride, and I think the reason for it is that obviously we're going through all the legal requirements behind it. The interesting thing is now possibly the fallout and whether or not it actually hurts revenue itself. There is talk, listening to what the possibility of the scope of the punishment could be, and I say that very lightly, is that it could be a blackout for a couple of hours. There are all sorts of rumours about how this could be handled, and therefore it would hit better revenue. So the stock was already depressed around the legal fees. There are certainly provisions in their balance sheet, provisions also in what they told you with regard to their earnings for this season. So all of that is there. So we just have to now wait to see what the fallout will be in terms of actual revenue punishment for this.
Okay, moving on. What's the latest on this discussions? We've been hearing about Fox and Discovery. There's more talk this week.
It is more talk, and it's been completely crushed by Chase Carey himself. He actually, on a fairly large talk with a Morgan Stanley chatback, he said straight out that it's absolute rubbish. And what he said in that is very clearly is that as a cable provider, and a big cable provider at that in the US, that they are now concentrating on the threat that is online. They are concentrating on, your tie-ups here in Australia with Presto for the Foxtel brand, and looking at it in the US and how they contemplate the rise of Netflix and the fact that Netflix wants 60 million viewers by the end of this calendar year. So that is where his direction was. So that Discovery mooted idea, according to obviously the CEO, has been crushed.
All right, Evan, we will leave it there. But as always, thanks so much for that analysis.
Thanks, guys.
Evan Lucas there from IG for the latest on the media space. Now, as Evan was mentioning there, let's go back to James Manning now, our co-host and editor and publisher of Media Week, in the studio on that ACMA ruling this week, or the High Court ruling, I should say, on Today FM. What is the implications of this?
Yeah, well, as Evan said, look, it's going to be a bit of a blackout. I think they could have their licence cancelled, but there's no way that's going to happen. There could be a licence condition put on the station too. But the bigger challenge for Today FM is they're getting their breakfast show right, though. They want to get this out of the way, put behind them. Being off air isn't a great look, and depends on what time of day. But gee, if they can turn around their breakfast show and get that back into the marketplace, get the ratings up, that's going to make the bigger difference to the share price. And once they can put this other sort of the prank call drama behind them. Are
you hearing any anecdotal evidence on how that breakfast show is tracking so far with Dan and Maz?
Well, it's gee whiz, they're working hard. They're out in the market. They're just every day they're up to something, and they're getting into the media. So yeah, look, they're really making some traction. Whether that will be they'll be rewarded with ratings. I think they probably will be. Will it go up? Maybe not much the first survey, but you'd think there should be some sort of bump there eventually for them.
Just back to that court ruling, do you think it will have any other implications for the radio broadcast space?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really united the sector behind them, if you like, the CRO, Commercial Radio, Joan Warner, the chief executive's come out and said, look, yeah, this has real implications for all broadcasters. Free TV's jumped all over it too and said, yeah, look, they really think it's a bit dangerous to give this much power to the ACMA, if you like. So, will they get some legislative relief in the future? Well, we heard Andrew Maiden talk about how hard it is to get stuff through Canberra with media laws. So, maybe you won't see anything too quickly. All
right, from one court case to another, there's another phone hacking trial happening in the UK. This time it's to do with the Mirror Group newspapers. What's the latest on this one? Yeah, look, it's just started this week, this trial, and again, look, this seems to be pretty rife in the company. Something like 100 celebrities were monitored fairly regularly as the claim at the start of this week, so I'll see how this one plays out. But gee whiz, you've got to think there's going to be pretty interesting evidence coming up before this case is over. Sure, we'll have more discussions on that in future shows, James. Now, Fairfax Huffington Post, we've talked about this on a few shows as well. It's launching, of course, later this year, and they've named a new chief executive. Who is it?
Yeah, Chris Jans has got the job there. He started like a Lua Media here in Australia, and sort of licensed a lot of interesting sort of web properties from the US that he built up here. They did pretty well, and that's what he's going to have to do with the HuffPost Australia when it launches later this year. He's started work straight away, and they're already looking for a senior editorial team to get the thing running.
Do we have any idea on how big that team will be?
There's about 6 or 7 senior people. Look, okay. I think they'll get some good quality leaders. Then there'll be sort of, you know, a team of maybe newcomers who'll work on it, because, you know, they're going to want to keep their costs pretty low to start with. So we'll see how it goes.
Now, I also want to talk about APN Outdoor. This one's had a pretty good contract win with Sydney Airport. Tell us a bit about this one. Yeah, it's been
good news for them. Newly listed too. I think they hit the ASX late last year. I don't think it had any impact on their share price this week, because it's a contract that doesn't really kick into the next financial year. But it's certainly definitely one to watch. It's a contract we think could be worth about $20 million in ad revenue a year for the total Sydney thing. What they did, they won the internals at T2. I think that's the terminal where Virgin and Jetstar are in Sydney. So it's a pretty big win. A lot of traffic goes through there every day, and they also renewed their existing deals with, I think, a lot of externals at both Sydney airports and, of course, the Sydney International Terminal, which is a massive deal to have. So it's great news for their sort of airport offering, if you like.
Yeah, certainly. Also want to talk Adelaide. There's been a push in Adelaide to change the clocks to even up with Eastern Standard Time. How are they tracking with this push?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so it's, a lot of businesses want that, I guess, so they can just operate all over. But an interesting angle, they've united the free-to-air TV chiefs over there, so 7, 9 and 10. They've all come out and said, yeah, look, it'd be great to get the TV standardised, so social media could just... all the people could have a benefit of that. They wouldn't have to delay the results of reality shows.
That's a big part of it, isn't it?
Half an hour, is it worth it? I don't know, that little bit of difference. There must be a lot of upside to change.
But there's so much interaction these days with some of the shows on television.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they could just broadcast it all live straight into that market, it'd be pretty good news for them.
All right, let's take a look now at some of the ratings. Kicking it off with Week 9, free to air. And once again, James, we saw this last week with My Kitchen Rules.
Sure, not running last week's. Yeah.
Almost a clean sweep. And exactly, I had to double take them thinking it was the same week.
Yeah, it is. Look, it was only, I think, 4 episodes. There might have been 5 last time we looked at this, but yeah, 4. They're all up there. The Block just squeezing into the top 5.
The Sunday night one.
Yeah, looks doing quite well for the 9 on Sunday nights, the Block, but having a bit of trouble on the weeknights, getting big audiences.
Turning the page on that, and you can see there the News making it in 9 and 7, both making it in there, though 9 seeming to win.
For the ABC, you know, one of the... the ABC's doing very well, particularly on Saturday nights, and it's been winning the last couple of Saturdays, I think, thanks to Nutrix.
Nutrix coming in number 9 this week. All right, let's take a look at the subscription television ratings now for Week 9. And sport, obviously, taking the cake there. Cricket, number 1, 2 and 3. AFL in there as well, James.
Yeah, it looks last weekend we'll start getting some NRL into these figures, I think, too, so... I'll be surprised if we don't see that up there next week.
Let's turn the page.
Bit of AFL cropping up for the first time this year too.
Real Housewives of Melbourne, once again, making that top 10.
Yeah, doing very well second season.
And Gogglebox as well, that new show Gogglebox Australia on lifestyle. All right, let's talk more about television with some of them. We saw the Block coming in at number 5. It's still looking at lower audience numbers, though, for the Block. What are they doing to try to counter it?
Yeah, look, Nine's going on a bit of a roadshow around shopping centres in Victoria on Saturday afternoon. They're taking Shelley Craft, some of the cast. I mean, it's the way you used to promote TV shows in the old days. They used to take out people from Neighbours, people from Home and Away, and it'd be a big deal at shopping centres. They get big crowds. It'd be interesting to see how many people show up for people from the Block. Well, it can't hurt. It's just how much will it help? It's a good thing to do. Scott Cam, I don't think is going to be there. The Gold Logie winner, give it a little bit more power if he was there, I guess. But it'll get some interested people there, and it just might rekindle the memory bank. Oh yeah, this show's on. Maybe we should be checking it out.
Traditionally, how the Block and My Kitchen Rules fare against each other in other seasons?
My Kitchen Rules has been the giant. I think the Block did reasonably well up against it last year, but it's been really hurt by, I think, 10's I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. It's really divided the market into 3. And the Block has sort of, hurt the most.
So some of those viewers have gone to I'm a Celebrity.
That's right, yeah. It's really split that market 3 ways. My Kitchen Rules has hung on to most of their audience. They're down a little bit year on year, but nothing too drastic.
Interesting. 10 must be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think they've certainly got them into the mix. And, people who advertise on the Block, 10 can really go to them now and say, look, we've got a big audience here. You should really be thinking about that spend, where it goes.
Back to 9 and 7, the breakfast wars continuing. 9 trying to sort of fight to reclaim some of the audience that might be watching Sunrise. Sunrise, of course, going to Hawaii again, I think they went last year as well.
Yes, using both shows went overseas at the similar times last year.
Yes.
And it's happening again now with special promotional weeks, if you like. Interesting, this week Sunrise had, today had their best number this year, and they only trailed Sunrise narrowly across the Metro network. So it was a good result for them before they go into this week around Australia.
Yeah, so today going around Australia this year, is that anything to do with cutting costs, not going international?
No, I think they'll probably do an international trip later in the year. Okay. This is just another way to get some, build a little bit of momentum in the first half. Nine's very keen. They think they could have, started the year a little better, so they're very keen on focusing on what they call Q2, which is sort of launching soon, and this would be a good entry for them into that for their breakfast show.
Do the international shows tend to rate better than the others, do they, in terms of going to Hawaii for Sunrise?
I think so, yeah. I mean, look, at me as an audience member, I always like it, whether it's a radio show going on the road or whether it's your TV show going on. As you, as the viewer, if you're stuck at home in your normal routine, it's very exciting to see.
Watch someone else on a holiday.
Absolutely. And it just lifts it so much. They're doing different. They're not sitting in the studio every day. They're out on the road. They're
doing different activities.
Yeah, they're going to locations, and people give a few people ideas for holidays too, perhaps.
Exactly. All right. NRL season also kicking off this week, as you mentioned there, with ratings potentially impacted next week. One of the broadcast partners, Fox Sports, offering even more NRL-related programming. Yeah,
those TV rights split between Fox Sports and Nine. Fox Sports is very keen on this year to lift its profile. Fox Footy was very successful in entertainment programs across the weeknights when there's not a game on. So Fox Sports started that last year, and they're really going to expand it this year. They had some success with that. Like, I think NRL 360 is going to 3 nights a week. Peter Sterling's getting a new show at a different time, I think, too. Matty Johns, I think, is getting an extra show. So they really want to replicate the success they had with Fox Footy and get those weeknight programs right across to make sure that NRL audience is tuning in every night, or as many of them as they can.
And to end on a bit of a lighter note, we've got SBS has revealed our contestant for Eurovision. First time Australia's had a real contestant in Eurovision.
Absolutely, yeah. Guy Sebastian is going to be the person's going to Vienna in May to compete. We don't know what he's going to sing. He hinted this morning at a press conference that it could be a track off his album that's been yet to be released as a single. So we think he's probably already got some good material earmarked for that. Be interesting to see how he goes. I think if we manage to win, Australia do get to host, but they have to host in a European city. So it'd be interesting.
You think we'll have a chance in winning Eurovision?
Guy Sebastian. He's
pretty good.
He's got a great track record. Sony Music's involved, so you've got really...
Do you think they'd give it to an Australian contestant, though?
Yeah, I don't. Well, it's the viewers come down to the vote, I guess.
That's true.
So it's, I don't think they'd have any hang-up if he's got a song and they think it's great, and it's a bit of a novelty vote. People think, let's have a vote for Australia too. It's a bit of a laugh, How funny would it be Australia winning Eurovision?
It'd be great. Fingers crossed for Guy Sebastian.
Imagine other countries might have some pressure on the Eurovision organisers and think, well, if Australia can get in there, why aren't we there too?
Bigger and better. All right, well, there you have it. That does wrap up Media Week for this week. Thanks so much to our guest host, James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week. From the team here, thanks for your company.